guests and viewers. I would like to welcome you to the very first debate of the 2020 Prague European Summit, which will focus on digitalization in education and its challenges. My name is Vít Havelka. I am a research fellow at the European Institute for European Policy, and I will moderate this debate. Before I am introducing the speakers that we invited for today's debate, I would like to welcome His Excellency, the Ambassador of Germany to the Czech Republic, Christoph Israng, who will give us a short opening speech.
Well, dobré ráno, good morning to everyone. Thank you to the organizers for having me this morning at the Czech Foreign Ministry. It's really a pleasure to be here, and also thank you to all of you joining us at this very early hour. Digitalization obviously is a topic for all of us, also for the older generation, also for myself. I'm going through a learning process myself, which seems to be quite difficult from time to time. Apparently, the organizers were not so sure about my success in this procedure, so they invited me to come here in person to the Czech Foreign Ministry to open the debate this morning and not to be connected from home. I'm very happy to be here in this wonderful studio, and I'm sending out greetings to all of you at home. As I said, digitalization is a priority for all of us, and so it's no surprise that also the German EU presidency of the European Council focuses on digitalization. We have done several steps to promote digitalization. Of course, digital and technological sovereignty is a very important topic, not only in the pandemic. We have held, as presidency, we have held future-oriented policy debates to promote the build-up of an efficient and trustworthy European data infrastructure, as well as improving infrastructure such as broadband and mobile phone networks. The Council conclusions of October include a support of the European members to a resilient, value-based digital transformation and the use of artificial intelligence. In a joint declaration, the EU members have also supported a EU Cloud Federation, which aims to bring a new generation of cloud services in Europe. In all of this, security provisions, data and consumer protection are very, very essential. Additionally, as a foreign ministry, we are trying to build up a digital diplomacy network that tries to enhance the digital cooperation of foreign ministries. Now, the topic of today is not about digitalization in general, but about education. And education does not only mean for younger children, but also for all of us, because this is a lifelong process, as I said in the beginning. There are several issues that need to be tackled. For example, how can we use the opportunities that digital transformation offers, but also how can we tackle the challenges that are posed, especially for less affluent citizens, also for younger children, for young families who suffer from the social distancing. We also have to make sure that the media literacy, the digital competencies, and the resilience to disinformation are increased. We also have to make sure that the older generation is not lost in this digital transformation, because this is really a lifelong learning project. And in general, we have to tackle the question if the educational systems are fit for purpose, and I'm sure we will hear some answers to this in the panel discussion we are about to witness right now. I'm looking very much forward to this, to the debate, and to your contributions as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for a very good speech. Now, before I introduce our distinguished speakers, I would like to say something to the form of the debate. In the, let's say, first 30 or 45 minutes, I will ask our panelists questions, and subsequently I will also give a floor to you, viewers, who can definitely pose us questions that you would like our speakers to answer. I will try to do my best so that everyone gets his or her answer. Now, we welcome here 3 and 4 distinguished guests. I will introduce them one by one. Let me begin with Vivian Hoffman, who is Deputy Director General in DG for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture at the European Commission. Then I would like to welcome here Peter Karlberg, who is Director of Education at the Swedish National Agency for Education. Then Maximilian Müller-Herling, who is Head of Division for Digitalization Strategies for the Knowledge-Based Society, working at the coordination at Federal Ministry for Education and Research of Germany. And in a short moment, we will also connect to Michala Šojdrová, who is currently serving as a MEP elected for the Czech Republic, and she is member of the Committee on Culture and Education at the European Parliament. So, we have introduced our guests. I welcome everybody here to today's debate, and I would like to begin with a kick-off question and ask each of the panelists why digitalization in education matters, why we should be concerned with digitalization. And let's begin with Vivian Hoffman.
Good morning. I would like to first say my gratitude for this invitation. Your Excellency, Mr. Israng, Honourable Member of the European Parliament, Mrs. Šojdrová, Mr. Karlberg, Mr. Müller-Herling, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a great pleasure to be here today. It's a big understatement to say we live in a changing world. For years, we have been emphasizing the need to ensure that education and training are ready for the fourth industrial revolution and the digital transformation. They bring immense opportunities for the society, economic growth, innovation, efficiency. Still, they come with challenges and risks related to privacy biases and even deepening existing divides in our societies. So education and training systems have been facing this difficult task to adapt to the digital transformation in an effective manner and to prepare people to live and thrive in the digital age by equipping them with the relevant digital skills and competencies. So, of course, the pandemic has accelerated the process of digitization in all areas of life. Education and training are no exception, rather on the contrary, the crisis brought the greatest leap in the use of digital technologies in this area, probably in history. So I think this is what I want to say as an introduction. I'm very happy to come back later in our discussion.
Thank you very much. Now I would like Mr. Müller-Herling, whether he could share his view on digitalization in education, why it matters.
Yeah, let me answer very quickly on to your question why digital competencies matter. I think there are at least 4 answers: to grant employability, to enable social participation, to foster critical thinking, and to enable innovation, I would say, and come back to these ideas later on.
Thanks a lot. Mr. Karlberg.
You made it very easy for me because I can just refer to the speakers before me. They covered almost everything that could be said about this. We are now for quite many years living in a digital society, and we're still a bit behind when it comes to education. Of course, the pandemic has made some changes to that, but but the main advantages of digitalization in education has not yet come. The major change is that we use digital tools a lot more in schools, but how really to make use of the possibilities that offers is still a bit in the future, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I don't know if we are connected with Mrs. Šojdrová. If so,
yes,
I would
we
like
are
to
connected.
ask her. Yes.
Yes, I can see you. I can hear you, but I am not able to turn my camera front. She's still back, so I regret. I apologize, but I would like to involve in our discussion because very important topic issue. Thank you that you welcome this panel. Why digital education just now? Because we know that in the COVID pandemic, we have to use this remote way, this distance learning. And we know that about 30% of pupils have no connection, and they are not they have no equipment for digital education, digital learning. So we have to, as we are speaking about European level, we have to help to member states to improve this digital equipment in schools for equal access to digital education, because there are big risks for the future generation. So there is really a good time to speak about it, but I think a last minute.
Mm-hmm. Thanks to the old speakers for their statement. Now I would like to ask Vivian Hoffman, who works at the European Commission and probably has a good overview about on how digital education is advanced within different EU member states. So could you tell us what are the best examples that we have in Europe, and maybe also what are the worst?
It's difficult to compare. There are many good examples, and by the way, the Erasmus Plus program is supporting many more example projects than in the past. Since 2018, the number of Erasmus projects that are relevant in this area has increased exponentially. Let me just say a word about an initiative that the Commission has taken recently. On the 30th of September, the Commission adopted a package of initiatives, an education package. First of all, outlining our vision for the European education area by 2025, and as a part of it, putting forward a new digital education action plan for the years to come. So there was a digital education action plan before, but this is now an integrated one. It's a more ambitious one, and it is designed in a way that makes digital education inclusive and also encompasses all sorts of types of learning, formal, non-formal, lifelong learning, all generations, and so on. So this is a forward-looking plan, and it is rooted in these values of quality, inclusion, so that nobody is left behind. And Mrs. Šojdrová just said it, we need to make sure that connectivity and equipment are improved. This is, and of course, lifelong learning is an important component. So these are the key drivers. In a way, one could say we reset education and training for the digital age for the next 7 years. And I'm happy to go further into the different components of this new approach later on if there's time.
Yeah, definitely, we will get to that. We have representatives of three nations, three European nations, Germany, Sweden, and the Czech Republic. So I would like to ask, at first, the German representative, what is their approach to digitalization in education, and what challenges he perceives in Germany when it comes to the digitalization?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me first remember you that we are a federal country, and especially in education, it's the main competency of the Länder, of the counties, to make education work in a way. And we, on the federal level, we support them, and support them more and more during the last years. And there are various fields of collaboration between the federal level and the Länder. One level is infrastructure. We actually weren't very good at that in Germany, and we are now on the way to make this much better with a so-called digital pact worth 5 billion plus some Corona extra packages to enable schools to connect to broadband and Wi-Fi. And whereas the federal level finance this infrastructure, the Länder, they are responsible for better pedagogy and better concepts for teachers for further training. That's one thing. The other thing is we work hard on competencies for teachers as well as learners in the sense of lifelong learning, not only in schools, but through the whole path journey, educational journey through life. And there are many measures and ideas how to improve these competencies. And we have to empower institutions and research in that field too, which we do on a national level. And so we try to, in a way, catch up. We try hard, and Sweden is here with us, so we look with interest to the Scandinavian countries that are a little bit ahead in digital education. But yeah, we are on a good way now, and will also, I may say that, start now to build a digital ecosystem for digital education, and that's a big project and it's a long journey, but we started and are happy to go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Maybe one more question. What struggles do you have in Germany when it comes to the digitalization? Is it some kind of a resistance, let's say, from the educational system as such, or is it a money issue, or is it a lack of planning, or are there any problems that you encounter at all?
I mean, that of course, as in probably all countries, there are problems on various levels. It's actually not as easy as we thought to connect all schools with broadband, for instance. Mm-hmm. This is not so easy in rural areas or even in some urban areas. Another problem is, or a challenge is, of course, many teachers, take older teachers, they weren't used to use digital tools and technologies. So it's not just a question of competencies, it's a question of conviction and whether they really are willing to start this new era or to use the new tools, and that's hard work. And I want to mention one other problem. Some years ago, as you all know, we talked a lot about digital natives, and we thought, well, the youth can teach the teachers. And to have a closer look at that idea, you find out that they are not as native, digital natives, as we thought. They can use their phones and they can chat with each other, but they are not per se well equipped to find the most important information, to have a critical approach to some information, and to really be a steady learner with online in the field of online education. This steadiness and the ability to concentrate is not a given something. We have to work hard on it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Now I'll turn to Mrs. Šojdrová. The same question, basically. What does the digitalization education look like here in the Czech Republic, and what are the main challenges that we face while pursuing a better digital education?
I think that we can see some step forward in the last half of years, because the COVID-19 is the positive impact, if we can speak about positive impact of COVID-19, that it's accelerated school education, school digital education. The teacher was not the teachers were not so good prepared, but they tried to do their best, and now in the second wave, what we are living in Czech Republic, they had now better conditions, better programs. They learned many things. They told me, they share with me their experiences, and I know that it's better, but we know, for example, from school inspection report, that the situation with connectivity, as Mr. German representative told, it's also very difficult. I don't know if in Germany do you have concrete numbers, but in Czech Republic we know that, for example, 16% of pupils in primary school they were without connectivity. So they were not able to learn in distance form. 16% in primary education, but we know that the situation was, I don't know if still yet, in secondary, lower secondary level, and in vocational education it was about 20% without distance learning. So I think one thing is they are teachers, their capacity, they should be proved, but they do the development. But the connectivity equipment and individual situation of schools are different, as they are big risk, and we have to do improvements. It's clear. But we do it. What is very important, maybe it's good to mention here on this level, that in Czech Republic, during the summer break, our parliament approved a law, new school law, that distance learning in some crisis situation is obligatory, it's compulsory. I don't know if the other countries do you have the same, but it's very important. But if this distance learning in crisis situation is compulsory, so the state is compulsory, mandatory to equip pupils, to equip schools by this digital equipment. So it's very important to share this responsibility, and I think to help the schools, teachers, parents to fulfill their duty, their new duty. So I hope I can then speak also about some tools on a European level. Next time I would like to involve the discussion. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Maybe Mr. Schröder had a good point. I would like to ask, before we go to the Swedish representative, our German representative here, did you encounter while transitioning to distance learning that some of the students didn't have a proper equipment at home that would enable them to actually take part in the education?
Yes, that is the case. There are not that many, but I think you have to differentiate first. Do they have any kind of device, or they have a sufficient kind of device? That's important to know. And I told you already about the Corona package within our digital pact for schools, and one of these packages is devices for students whose parents can't afford them. So we support them to buy these devices.
Great, thank you very much. And now I would like to turn to probably the best example, as was mentioned here, namely Sweden. So please, could you tell us what the digitalization education looks like in Sweden? And maybe are there some loopholes that you would like to fill on the policy level in Sweden?
Yes, of course. You're never perfect, but since 2017, we have a national strategy. Before that, there was a lot of things being done at the local level. We have a decentralized school system, so it's run by municipalities or private schools. But the government formed a new strategy with some clear goals, what we want to achieve, and where the notion of equal opportunities for all students to achieve this digital competence is the main goal for this. We are, of course, very fortunate because during a long period of time, actually, I would say since around 2006, the idea of one device for each student has been very strong. So at the age of 13 to 15, more than 50% of the students in Sweden have been equipped from the school with a device which is suitable for learning. And at the upper secondary level, it's much higher. It's almost, if you just count the computers or devices that are available, there is one for each student at the upper secondary level, provided by the school. And during the pandemic, the only schools in Sweden that were shut down was at the upper secondary level. So they immediately turned into distance education using digital tools. And I don't think, of course, there is exceptions, but in very general terms, for kids and younger people, they normally have broadband connection or some kind of connection at home, and they have the device they are equipped with from the school, or they have some they personally own. So we have been very fortunate in that sense. The teaching have been possible to continue for these upper secondary students, but digital then. And for some schools at the compulsory level, there have been so many students that have been kept home, perhaps with some fear of exposing themselves at school or with some symptoms. So we have had reports of between 30 and 50% absence, and that means that at the compulsory school level, the teachers have been faced with the fact that they have to teach half the class in the classroom, which is where the students have come, but they also have to teach those who are staying at home. And that is, of course, a big challenge. But coming back to the strategy, we are together with the organizations for the municipalities who are responsible for schools, really work hard to achieve the goals in the strategy to 2022. And that is going quite well when it comes to infrastructure and things like that. And we also have a very powerful driver at that side in that the national test will be digital from 2023, which means that the schools has to prepare for being able to have the all students to be participating in the national tests in 2023, which means demands on devices, of course, but also on the capacity of broadband. We actually stopped asking schools what kind of broadband they have a couple of years ago because everybody say they had. So we are quite confident that this will work well. But we are also coming to this more the pedagogical side of it. We, as the agency I represent, we have produced a lot of material for competence development for teachers that are freely available for all schools. They are often built on the idea of teachers coming together, taking part of research articles or videos or things like that, and then discuss how can we develop the way we teach when we have these digital tools available. And that is where we still are not as good as I would like us to be. Not because teachers are in general are opposing this, but it takes time. You know, we the same way we now discuss that students have to learn how to use digital tools for learning. The same goes in traditional teaching as well. It's not you're not a native book reader when you come to school in terms of actually knowing how to use it for learning, how to make notes, everything like that. You have to learn that in the digital world as well. So it's not rocket science. It's just that introducing new tools demands some a learning curve that both teachers and student has to go through. So we have a lot of support for this, but it's still up to the schools to provide the time for teachers to take part of this. And in Sweden, teachers have a little bit more than 100 hours of competence development time in their union agreements. So there is possibility, but there is always other things that they also have to develop. I mean, for special needs and so on.
Thank you very much. Now we heard what the national experience with digitalization in education is. What is the different approach of different various EU member states? We have half of our time behind us that we devoted to today's discussion. So I think it's a perfect time for me to encourage once more our viewers to pose questions online, and I see it here on the. I'm going to see it here on the tablet, just in front of me. So I'll definitely, if you ask, I will pose the question to our speakers. Now, before we get to the European level, I have one short general question again to all the speakers. How do you think that the COVID pandemic will influence the digitalization in education in the long term? Do you think that once the pandemic is over, we will just get back to what the education had been like before COVID struck Europe, or there will be some long-term implications of the COVID pandemic on education? And maybe let's start with the representative of the Commission.
Thank you very much. It's always very difficult to, look into the future. Foresight is a job in itself, but I think one could very safely say that no, we will not go back to where we were before for many different reasons. And maybe I will also say a word about the skills gap. When we looked at it, we found out that already last year, over half of large and small and medium-sized enterprises in all the member states who recruited or tried to recruit ICT specialists reported difficulties in filling these vacancies. It's just one aspect, but I think that the world is moving on. There has this big leap. And indeed, I think that digitization and digital skills and access, indeed, to the broadband connections and the infrastructure is extremely important. It's not only a necessity, I would say it's also a right, because it provides so many benefits and opportunities as well, while of course we need to remain careful with the potential risks and indeed look at the different fronts at the same time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. The same question for Mr. Miller-Herlin.
I agree with that. We won't go back to the to the education before the pandemic. Let me say two things. One is many teachers, as well as learners, as well as parents, lost their concerns that distance learning would not work at all or would be so difficult and we can't make it. Even teachers who are not very familiar with all the tools we have, they did a good job, and they realized that they can do a good job with sort of not the most sophisticated tools. Even with some simple tools, you can do a very good job in digital education. That's the one thing. The other thing is, at the same time, we learn and we took it for granted that students meet in schools. And now we realize, again, schools are social meeting points. They are important not only for learning, but as a melting pot, as a place to exchange, to chat. So this won't go away either. And we have to mix it, to have these places of social connection and combine it with all these good and valuable tools of digital education.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Mr. Karlberg, the same question to you.
Well, yes, of course there will be changes, although school is a very slow changing organism. We know that if we look back, and one of the things that is in favor of not making so big changes is that schools also, as was mentioned, is a social melting pot, but it's also a place where we control our young people in the sense that we know where they are. Some adult is available. During the pandemic, a lot of parents, at least in Sweden, have been fortunate to be home when their kids are home studying, which means that there is still an adult around. But as in Sweden, mostly both parents work. When we go back to a more normal situation, there will be no adult at home. And we know from our follow-up studies that there is groups of students that are not that distance education is not so favorable for because they have difficulty in sort of the discipline. They can have learning problems that is hard to fulfill through distance education and so on. So I don't think we should expect that big changes, but some, and especially when it comes to the competence and feeling of control that teachers have gained during this period, they have actually been able to find out that it's that hard. We can do good teaching even with digital tools and on distance, and they have also probably been able to test some new things that they haven't been doing before.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Schroederová, what's the Czech Republic will look like after the pandemic?
Yeah, everything what previous speakers told is true. Also in Czech Republic, of course, we cannot this form use too much, too long time, because the students miss this social contact. It's absolutely evident. But schools, teachers, parents, as mentioned previous speakers, they made big step forward, and we have to develop all positive what we learned. We have to use all positive lessons what we learn during this quarantine, during lockdown. They are positive. They are positive. Efficiency of courses, new projects, new courses, new evaluation methods. So we have many new things what our teachers and students learned, but we have use it by efficient way and to include to this to the school programs. So there are many things what we can use in the future, what we can develop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think now it's time to turn to the European stage. So I would like to begin with Mrs. Hoffmann. You mentioned at the very beginning that Commission introduced new digital education action plan, if I'm not mistaken. So could you please briefly describe what it is about and what it is supposed to achieve?
Yes, thank you very much. It is a comprehensive or holistic digital education action plan encompassing all forms of education and training, and of course also lifelong learning. So it's an integrated approach. And I think that the two big strands, the two strategic priorities actually are, on the one hand, foster high-performing digital education ecosystems, including infrastructure, connectivity, equipment, and so on, and also high-quality content, of course. And on the other hand, enhance digital skills and competencies for the digital age. This starts with supporting the provision of basic digital skills and competencies from an early age on, and also, by the way, understanding of data-intensive technologies, artificial intelligence, recognizing disinformation, I think, which is very, very important aspects of our current societal development, and also enhancing the number of digital specialists, and in particular also women in digital studies and careers. So that's in a nutshell the approach with these two different strands, and a lot of actions that we will roll out over time, in dialogue, of course, with the member states as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now I would like to turn to Mr. Miller-Herlin. How do you perceive this initiative from, let's say, German national representative perspective? Is it going in a good direction, or would you expect the Commission or the European Union to be active differently?
We do appreciate this a lot, and we are in very close connection to the European Commission. You know, we are sort of within the German presidency, and my minister, we prepared the Council conclusions on digital education in Europe's knowledge societies, which will be adopted by the informal meeting of education ministers on November 13th. And this is sort of the Council's recommendations and conclusions, not only but also to the Digital Education Action Plan. And let me mention that the European Commission went forward during the last years in a very interesting way. There are other initiatives, and perhaps not most important, but one of the very important initiatives is Europass, and the idea of building on an e-portfolio for learners. That this is of concrete individual use, and it can serve as a good practice and a good example for member states. I would like to say that I am in favor of of an approach where the member states stay responsible for education. But this does not mean that the European Commission, the European level, should not play an important role. It can connect educators, learners. It can bring to light good examples. And it is clear that digital infrastructure is not limited to national borders, and nor is the discussion on digital content. So I think we are in a fruitful exchange, and this will even intensify.
Thank you very much. Mr. Karlberg, the same question to you, your Swedish perspective on the Commission's proposal.
Yeah, I think it's very important and very good that the Commission are taking these kind of initiatives and sort of point the way. Of course, still we have to do it on the national level. And you know, we have this European cooperation within the European School Net, which is at a sort of not ministerial, not minister level, but ministerial level, or agencies like the one I represent, which have been working for more than 20 years in providing resources and things like that, often with the support of the Commission, of course. We miss German there, but I think it's over 30 European countries that are part of that. But that is only an example of exchange we have established, where we actually continuously share ideas, both at the policy level, but also on a more pedagogical level, so support teachers and so on. So I really want us to see all these kind of initiatives together, and not as different, rather that complementing each other, so that we can be more effective together, because I think there is a lot of things to be learned from others, and the European level is suitable level for that, even if we also have exchange with the US and other parts of the world, which also do a lot of interesting things.
Thank you very much. Now I'll turn to Mrs. Šojdrová with the same question, but I'll add one more because she's the representative of the Czech Republic in the European Parliament. I would also ask her, apart from how she perceives the Commission's proposal as a person or a representative of the Czech Republic, to say something what the discussion is like in the European Parliament, whether this topic is being discussed and what are the opinions on the Commission's proposal and what initiatives the European Parliament would like to take.
Thank you very much. For some moment I was without connection. Now it's better. Thank you. In the European Parliament, we are currently working on the report on shaping the digital education policy as our parliamentary response to the Commission's Digital Education Action Plan. We must seek for synergies with all actors, as you mentioned, also national state, but European level, but all actions, all actors. With my colleagues, we want to ensure that EU Recovery Fund and the next multi-annual budget will be used for digital equipment for schools and children. But it's mainly up to the governments to negotiate with the Commission and prioritize investment in digitalization of schools. I would like to underline this point because we know that in all countries, all member states, they need some investments. There are in the budget, in the recovery fund, but they are member states who are responsible and who has to decide, yes, we want to draw some money, some budget from this common recovery fund. This is one thing. It's the budgetary and European level. We have also the other tools, what we have to what we can to use. It's methodological support. We want that on the European level is developed common framework digital education standard, common or framework or standards for digital education. Because now we have in the schools European framework from languages, from foreign languages, and now we can have this digital standards. It's methodological. It could be not from the European level. It's not possible to impose nothing to member states' system, but we can help with methodology. So there are many tools. I would like to thanks to German presidency because in the last week they very helped to increase the budget for Erasmus. And it's very important for young generation, for teachers, also for digital education, of course, because now, for example, all Erasmus is in a distance way, in distance form, so they really develop digital education, digital skills. So thank you very much for this big effort, big success. So they are our approach, and we will, European Parliament has this report next year, shaping the digital education policy, and we will present our position.
Great, that's very good to hear. Now, because we have a couple of last minutes, I would like to give a space to our viewers. Thank you very much for sending us questions. You have still a chance to add some more. So I will start with the first one. It's directed on whoever wants to take the floor. One viewer asks, how do we prepare today's generation for jobs and a more digital workspace? And how do we compete with countries that are leading in this space, such as China? Whoever wants to answer, please just take the floor.
I can just just say something about the Swedish approach. We, at the same time, we had this new national strategy for digitalization. We also changed the curriculum. So we introduced much more concrete what we mean by digital competencies. But we also added programming to the compulsory schools. So already from the beginning, schools are supposed to teach this. This is not to make them programmers at all, because compulsory school in Sweden, you don't have to make any choices in career sense. But it's supposed to make you aware of how this technology actually is built, what it makes it work, and making you a bit confident in that you know why the result on Google becomes the result, things like that. The benefit of this, having this for all kids, is that they can develop the interest for technology from this way of doing, and hopefully we also equalize between girls and boys, because everybody does it. They do robotics, they do a lot of things, and of course there will be AI and things like that further on. So that is, and then we strengthen the programs at the upper secondary level when it comes to technology. We haven't seen the real result of this yet.
Mm-hmm. Perfect, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, please.
The competition the viewer mentioned is a very tough one, with other countries being ahead. It's not only a tough one because they are ahead in technology for some part, but it's a tough one because we stick to some other principles. We value data protection, we value individual freedom. We want to integrate these values and principles in our digital strategies, and we have to. And this is on the one hand a challenge, and it can make us strong on the other hand, because this is our vision, this is our goal, and the challenge is of such importance that we have to make it a common effort of the member states and the European Union, the European Commission, and it has to guide us through the next years to make our ideas and principles strong and to compete with other countries and regions in the world.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Another question concerning digitalization of education. A viewer asked what EU member states are struggling the most in terms of digitalization of education and why. I think it's the question for Vivian Hoffman. I don't know if you would like to answer this question. You don't have to name countries, but just please give us some overview of what the main problems of digitalization in education are in Europe.
Yes, no, indeed. I mean, it's difficult, and I wouldn't like to single out countries, but also we have very much to share when it comes to challenges and ways of doing things, and that's why it's important to have also this exchange at the European level, as was said before. Now, when it comes to what the countries struggle with, a lot was already said. A lot was said about let's just the lack of skills and competences. According to our latest figures, 40% of the adult population in the European Union still lacks digital skills and competences. And what was said before about digital or so-called digital natives is very true. We also looked at the group of 13 to 14-year-olds and found out that indeed they did not have a sufficient proficiency level in digital competence, and a lot was also said already about teachers. We want teachers to be further supported, and also we did a consultation, a very broad consultation, before putting together this action plan. And what we also found out is that 60% of the teachers, they had not used online teaching before the crisis, and so on. And then also what was said before in terms of access, in terms of to infrastructure, to broadband, but also in terms of gap between students, pupils, depending on their socio-economic situation and so on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I think this was a perfect summary of our debate and a perfect ending for our debate. So I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers that devoted their time for this discussion and shared their views on digitalization. So thank you very much. And I would like also to ask our viewers, please stay tuned. We will carry on with the Prague European Summit at 9:20 with the official opening. So thank you very much for your time and hope to see you in a couple of minutes again.